Okay, so to start this, we're going to be using Chrome. I recommend using Chrome to follow along here. And we're going to go to github.com. And where the search bar is, we're going to search for something called Lumocards-One. And that will bring up this project here. And we're going to go ahead and click on it. And the only thing that you're going to need this for is to grab the code. So on this little tab here, we'll go to code, and I'm going to do download zip. So I will go ahead and download that to my desktop here. You can put it wherever you want, and I'm going to call this Lumo. You can name it whatever you like here. Okay, so that has been downloaded. And now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to exit out of that tab for now. And I can see I've got this here. And before I go any further with this project, there's two requirements that you're going to need to get this started. The first one is Python. So if you don't already have Python installed, then you'll need to go to, let's see what it's called, download Python. Okay, so you're just going to need to go to this website here, download Python. I recommend using whatever the latest is. I think this will work with some previous Python versions. When I made it, it was Python 3.12, so I would recommend just anything for 3.12 and forward. If you want to test around with different things, feel free. So you're going to need Python. And in order to check that you have that correctly installed, we're going to go to the terminal here, and you're going to type Python --version. Okay, that didn't work because I didn't type Python 3. There we go. So it shows I've got Python 13 installed on my system, which is cool and good to go. The other thing that you're going to need for this project to work is another program called Micro. And you can find that by typing Micro Text Editor. And the first tab that comes up for me is this one here. And it's this nice website where it will show you a lot of different ways that you can get Micro. You can download it here. You can get it from the command line. You can go to the detailed installation, and it will show you a bunch of different ways that you can get Micro. So if you're having trouble with that, I'm going to leave you to figure that out. But assuming that you have both of those installed, and we'll go ahead and just test that Micro is installed here. And you can see that it shows a little version thing. And basically Micro is a nice little terminal text editor. So if I were to type the command Micro, you can see that it just opens up a text editor, which is what Lumocards uses. So I'll go ahead and on a Mac or on a Windows, it's all the same, but Control Quit will get you out of the Micro program. Okay, so that's step one completed. We've got both of the requirements installed, and we're ready to go from there. We've also got Lumo Zip downloaded. Okay, so the next step here is we've got our downloaded zip here, and I'm going to extract it here, which on a Mac, I just need to double click it, and it will open up this folder here. I'm going to go ahead and rename the folder to something shorter that I like, so just Lumo. And then what we're going to do is we're going to navigate to this folder in the terminal, which on a Mac you can do a number of different ways. But if you are less familiar with using the terminal on a Mac, let me just resize this here a little bit. I want to make sure it's large enough here for you. If you're less familiar with using the terminal on a Mac, then you can just click on the folder and then do Apple C for copy. And then here in the terminal, you're going to type CD and then go ahead and paste, and it will paste that folder in. And now you'll see that we're in the Lumo folder, and you can double check this by typing PWD. That will just show you that we're in the Lumo folder. And the next thing that we're going to do here is make a virtual environment, which you don't really need to know what that is other than to know that you have to use it with this program. And the way that I'm going to do that on the Mac is by typing Python 3 -m venv venv. And I'll let that run. And now if I list what's in here, then on the bottom here, I can see this folder called venv. If you're on a Linux machine, this should be the same command here, Python 3 -m venv. If you're on a Windows, do double check this, but I believe the command is just going to be py -m venv like that. That I would just double check when you're doing this on a Windows. Now, the next step that you're going to do is you're going to activate that environment by typing source venv bin activate. And you will see that this has changed the prompt here to include venv in parentheses here. So we know that it's activated. And if you're on a Windows machine, then I believe what you need to do, we'll just check this right here on the internet quickly, is activate virtual environment Python Windows. Let's see here. Okay, so it looks like these two, I would say, are going to be your best bet. Dot this one or this one, and I would just try either of those. None of what you're doing is so crazy that you're going to mess things up too much. All you're really looking for is to see this parentheses show up. So assuming that you've got that set up, whether or not you're on a Windows machine or a Mac or Linux style machine, the next step is going to be to type Python 3 -m pip install -e dot. And before I run this, I will type what I think the command is for Windows, which would be py-m pip install -e dot. So just a minor difference there. But since we are on the Mac machine here, we'll go back to the original Python 3 -m pip install -e dot. And before you do, make sure that you're connected to the internet here, because you're going to need the internet for this command. Otherwise it won't work. And you'll see a bunch of different stuff happening. And that's installing the project, which gives you a couple features. Because I've already installed some of these components before, my installation went really quickly. Yours, you'll see yours will take longer, and you'll see some more information, but it should end up the same here. So I'll go ahead and clear out of this. So I have a clean area again. And then a couple notes here. First of all, let's say that I just quit this terminal program here. And let's say that I launched the terminal again. When it relaunches, you can see that that venv in parentheses is not activated anymore. So each time that you run Lumocards, you're going to need to make sure that it's activated. There are some shortcuts to this, which I might describe in another document. Shortcuts where if you're familiar with like a bash RC file or a zsh RC file, or in Windows a $ profile, you can put shortcuts in there so that every time your terminal runs, you've got a command to activate the environment. And for the sake of this demo, I'm going to leave you to explore that for what way you want to choose. What I am going to do is just going to go back to that original folder, and I'm going to type in source bin activate. Okay. So assuming you have a way to get back here, anytime you're using Lumocards, this needs to be activated. Otherwise, it won't work. One other note to make is that if you decide to change this folder again, I'm sorry, by change, I mean if you rename this folder here, so let's say you called it Lumo blah, this program is no longer going to work. You would have to then run this command here called python3-m pip install yada yada. Anytime you're changing this folder, that would need to be rerun. I'm going to go ahead and change this back to that. And let's go ahead and just type in the Lumo command to see if Lumo is now up and running. Okay, great. And it is. So we're going to pause here and then we will start the next chapter from here. Okay, so we're back and we are now going to be talking about some of the features that Lumocards has. So first off, I want to show that there's a couple ways to launch each of the programs within the Lumocards main program. And for an example, we're going to use the journal one here. So you can type D, and that can be upper or lowercase d, and it will launch the journal program here, which uses Micro that we installed before to pre-launch a journal with today's date set up for you to start writing in. I'll go ahead and quit out of that. You can also type the word journal and it will lead you to that same program. If you type in something that's close, like, journal, but misspelled, it's just going to say unrecognized option and take you back here to the main menu. Now, there is also the option of when you're here on the command line, but you haven't yet launched the Lumo main menu, you can also type Lumo journal and it will do the same thing. So it's like a shortcut into the feature, and you can do that with any of the programs here. So to demonstrate all of the programs that are available, we'll go ahead and hit the letter E for all or more, which shows all the programs. And you can see we have the cards planner, we have Newcard, we have journal, we have checklist, we have agenda, we have search, we have calendar, we have Pomodoro, and then we have two additional features for settings and an about section. And you can toggle that at any time by typing, I'm sorry, you can't toggle it, but if you quit, it will always default to this menu in the beginning here, this more condensed version. Okay, so now that we know how to do that, I'm going to show you some of these programs, but in a different order. So first of all, we're going to do Newcard. So I'll type B for Newcard, and this is going to bring up the new menu, which is going to show all the different categories for your cards, which you can customize later using the settings. But these are default categories that I've set up here for anyone who's downloading this project. So let's say that we're going to go ahead and make a new card for work. And then we'll say, I don't know, something that would be related to your work, like maybe pick up office supplies. So pick up office supplies. And this is going to make a text document. It's going to ask if you want to edit the steps. And if you say no, it will just skip that step. If you say X, if you say cancel, if you say exit, if you say just the letter N, or if you type just the letter N, it will skip this part of editing the steps. If you just press the enter key or the return key without typing anything, it's going to do what's called the default action here, which is what's shown in parentheses, which is yes. But you could also type OK or something if you wanted. But for this sake, I'm just going to do the default action of editing the steps. And this is going to bring up the text editor that we can use to edit the steps for the card that we're making about work. So we'll say, pick up ice, contact, maybe we'll say like contact bakery about cake, and then send co-worker invites. And we'll go ahead and save this in Micro by pressing Control S and Control Q. And now you can see that it's making this card, which gives it the prefix of the category plus the name that we've created condensed into one text file. And then it's going to give us some options here. I'm not going to go into all the options, but I'll just talk about these three here, which is set as near focus, middle focus, and distance focus. And basically the way that works in Lumo cards is if we go, I'm going to just move this down for a moment. If we open the Lumo folder here and we go to user files, which is where you're going to be accessing all of the data that you're storing, all your cards and such, and you go to cards, you see it's going to show all your cards that are categorized here. And the idea with Lumo is that you basically set up all the cards for different things that you're managing in your life, according to sort of how much of a priority of a focus they are. So for anything that you're going to be regularly focused on for the foreseeable future, that's what I put as a near focus card. A middle focus card could be anything that you kind of look at from time to time. And then distant focus, maybe things that you'd like to do one day or however you really want to do it. Near focus is kind of a special category, and I will explain how that relates to the cards planner, which we'll show you in a little bit. And then since we're here, I'll also just mention you've got checklist, recurring cards, and then archived cards. And if I were just to open the tab here, you can see that I've got a bunch of default cards that like Lumo ships with, which you can delete. And I'll just leave that open here. So I'm going to say that this is going to be a near focus card. So I'll set A, and it's going to finish creating that card. And then it's going to give me additional options. Like, let's say I wanted to open that card that I just made and add like one more step, like, you know, talk to secretary. Okay. And it'll just keep launching that menu. I'm not going to go into that. You can play around with that. The calendar feature doesn't currently work. So if you say scheduled a calendar, it'll just say, hey, we don't actually have that. And then we'll go ahead and quit. And it'll take us back to the Lumo menu. Now, if we go to the Finder, you can see that it's just created this card, pick up office supplies. Great. So that's the basics of the Newcard. And now let's talk about the journal. We really already basically covered everything in the journal, but what I want to show you is if we go back to Finder and we go back to Lumo here and we go to user files and then journal, you'll see that it's going to spit out this journal in a particular format. And what's nice about it is that if you have a bunch of these and you have them, in alphabetical order, it will keep everything organized by the year and then by the month and date and whatnot. So it just kind of keeps like a clean journal folder for you to go back and reference, which I'll just open by that. And you can see we didn't type anything here, but you can open them up as text files. So I will go ahead and go back here to Lumo. And let's see here. One more thing about Journal, which is really the text editor, is if you just spend a little bit of time online, you can learn about additional features that Micro, the text editor, has. But you can see here, like if you press Alt G? Control G will give you some help. So it'll show you kind of just like basic stuff that's available in Micro. So that's just something to consider if you're, wanting to learn more about the features in this. So that's it. We've done journal and Newcard. Now let's show the checklist. For that, I'm going to do checklist, and it'll show all the cards that are listed in the checklist cards section. So this here is corresponding to this here. And let's say that we wanted to make a checklist card that is really can be for anything where you're doing it multiple times a day, like a morning routine or an evening routine or maybe something after lunch, etc. I just have these default cards. So let's say that we're checking the checklist card 2, and I'll type A, and then it'll just literally go through all the steps that are in the checklist card, and then when it's finished, it'll say it's done, and then you can press any key to continue, and it'll take you back to the main menu. So anything where you're just trying to remember a process or something, you can have that as a quick reference for you. We've already covered the journal, so let's go into all here. And then I will show you agenda a little bit later, which is this here. And instead, let's do search. So if we type in F here for search, it'll say new search and then enter a single search term. So I think, I can't remember what we called that. Was it I can't remember what we called that the card that we just made. Oh, office supplies. Okay, so let's say you knew it was something related to your office. Then you, and even it could be something like a partial term. Then if you typed OFFI, it'll say, oh, I found something that relates to that. So office supplies. But let's say that, it matched a bunch of terms, like there's multiple cards that start with near. It will show all of those cards. And additionally, if you were to just type like the letter E or something, it'll show you everything that matches the letter E. So you'll see it's flexible on how it's going to respond here. And let's say that we're going back to the office card here, and we typed in the letter A to access that card. Then it'll open up this menu here for that card called Pick Up Office Supplies, and it'll give us options to do things like, again, we can open the card, we can make the card a recurring card, or we can modify the card in another way. So if I type B, you'll see it'll give us options to move the card around, like make it a middle focus card. We can also rename the card, we can archive the card, or we can delete the card. I'll just show you renaming the card. So let's say now it's going to be a household card, and we'll call this, party at home. And it'll say, okay, you're renaming this, and then you just confirm that you want it. So it's going to rename the card. And that's more or less it for the search. We can go ahead and quit this here. And then we will also show the Pomodoro feature, which we can access by typing all and then either typing H or Pomodoro. And one thing to note about that is that, again, you could also access it by typing Lumo Pomodoro like this. Or you could, even if it's not displayed here in the options, you can still type in the word Pomodoro from this menu and it'll take you there. So that option doesn't have to be visible. Okay, so now that we're in the Pomodoro, it's very quickly, I'll just show you. It's going to give you a couple presets for a 24-minute timer with a 4-minute break, a 20-minute timer with a 2-minute break, an option to set a custom Pomodoro, and then Pomodoro settings. So if we just demonstrate it, set a custom Pomodoro, it'll say how many minutes, and I'll make it quick. So I'll say, 1/10 of a minute and then 1/10 of a minute break, and you'll see it start. And then when it finishes, it'll let you know again. I don't know if you can hear a sound, but it plays like a little sound to let you know. And the timer's finished. And then it'll say, okay, do you want to take that break that you have for 0.1 minutes, which it's rounding down? Do you want to take a different amount of break? So let's say that you wanted to take, a 10-minute break, you would say C. And then if you wanted to quit the timer or pause it, you can pause it by just typing the enter key. And then you can resume it by same thing. And then if you just wanted to exit out of it, you can press exit. And then it'll go back to saying, okay, do you want to start the next round, which is like a 0.1 minute timer? Or do you want to start a new custom Pomodoro? And so it can just be an easy way for you to have a Pomodoro timer on your computer. If you do want to adjust what these presets are, you can go to D, Pomodoro settings. You can change what the default preset is, and then you can actually edit the the presets themselves. So if I say edit preset 1, you could say, well, now I want preset 1 to be a 15-minute timer and a 5-minute break. And it'll see, or it'll show you here that the preset 1, which is the default action, remember, anytime you just press enter without typing in something first, that'll be the default action. So if you were just to type enter here, it's going to start the timer for 15 minutes, but we're going to exit out of that. And then it's going to offer you the option to take a break, but we're not going to do that. So we will go ahead and quit out of that. So that's the intro to the Pomodoro. And then if you happen to type on about, which I'll show you here is J, it's not really going to do anything. It's just kind of a in progress feature. And then let's talk briefly about settings. So we talked about how there's like different categories for all the kinds of cards that you can make. Lumo comes with the option for 8 categories plus a default category, which you can edit by going into settings, which is here. We'll just type settings. And it's going to show us the card categories manager, and it'll show the categories that exist plus options. So if we want to create a new card category, let's do that. And we'll say that this is called L, and we'll call this lemonade. So it's going to create that category and reload it. But let's say we tried to make a new card category for something that already existed, like it'll say that's already assigned, and it's going to keep it as the previous category. You can also delete a card category. So let's say we're going to delete that category we just made. Oh no. Okay. We will have to fix that. Let's go back to Lumo settings. It doesn't look like it works that way, but we can also select a category using its prefix letter. So we can do that, and then let's see if we can delete the card category. And it's going to let us delete the category this way. And you'll see it's deleted. So that is how you can manage the categories in Lumocards. One thing to notice is that if let's say that we delete the finances category, so we'll select that category by pressing D, and then we delete that category, it's going to say deleting this category will rename 3 cards. Any cards that already are in that category are going to become the Z default category. So it's just letting you know that if you have cards that already have been assigned to one category, it's just going to put them in the default category because that's the one that you're deleting is no longer going to exist. So we'll say okay, and we can verify that by going to the Finder here and seeing that the cards that used to be called D are now called Z. They have the Z prefix on them. So just a note about when you're working with cards there. And then we will go ahead and quit out of this, and we will leave it at that for this section. Okay, so we are back, and now we're going to be showing the Lumo Cards Planner, which we can access in a variety of ways. So we can say Lumo Planner, I believe, or we can say Lumo Cards. Or if we're in the Lumo menu, we can say, can we say Cards Planner? Yes. Okay. So we've launched the planner, and what the planner does is it combines a couple different card categories in a way that you can set up a daily agenda. So you can see it's going to make a little header. It's going to tell you today's date, and then it's going to say running near focus cards, which again corresponds to, in your Lumo folder, this cards a focus near. Okay, so it's going to cycle through all these cards, and for each of these cards, it's going to give you an option to interact with the card in a variety of ways. So I will show you what those ways are. The first thing that you can do is you can make a notation about that card. So let's say you're going apple picking and you want to remind yourself to call friends to invite. It's going to take that little message and it's going to say added a apple picking call friends to invite to planner. So that's the first way of interacting, is just generic text will be added to your agenda at the end of this process. Another thing that you can do is you can add the steps that are indicated in the card. So you can, let's say, we'll type in the integer 1 and followed by a comma and then 6, and it'll show you it's saying adding step 1, adding step 6 to planner. And that will work with any integers that you specify, as long as they correspond to actual numbers in the list. You can so those are the main ways that you can add a step from the cards in the planner. There's also the option to just skip interacting with the card, and that's by just pressing the enter key, and it'll just go on to the next card. And then you also have the option of some hotkeys, which I'm going to demonstrate here in a moment. But for now, we're going to type super. Actually, we're just going to quit this process by typing Control Z. So let's go back to Lumo Cards, and it's going to reload this again. And let's say that we knew that this was a card that had a few more steps. Let's talk about some of the various hotkey words that you have. So the first one that I'll show you is more, which is going to resew the same card up to 20 steps. In this case, there's only 9 steps in it. Analogs for more are also called full. And then you've also got the word show. Okay. And you'll notice that if you've already typed the word show once, and you type it again, it's going to re-display that same card, but it's going to toggle back to the original setting. So let's just type that again. You also have the word edit, which is going to bring up that card in the text editor. You've got the word open, which will do the same thing. There's also the option for delete, which is going to set up that card to be deleted at the end of the process. You've got the option for done, which is going to move the card into the archives rather than deleting it completely. And then similes for done, you can also write completed. And you can also write the word archive. Okay. We are going to quit that process once again. We'll type Lumo. Okay. So a few more keywords that you can use to wrap this portion up is if you type at any point quit, it's going to skip to the next part of the planner. So in that case, it would be the recurring cards, but we will skip that. So we'll say quit, and we'll also quit that. And then it's going to finish this up. Let me go ahead and just make sure that it didn't delete, or not delete, but I want to delete the planner file that it makes, because whenever the process completes, it will at least set up the planner file. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just ignore what I said. Just remember that we're talking about the quit option. So we'll go back to planner. And the idea is that if you had a bunch of cards and you just wanted to do a portion of them, you could skip out of that section. Let's say that you are just done completely, or you want to be done with the process. So let's say you added step 1, 2, and 3 from the first card, and then you were done. If you type super quit like that, it's going to just it's going to complete the process and just add what you've put into the file. And that's going to look like, let me see here. I'm going to pull up the planner file that it creates. So it just created this folder here, and you can see that it's made this planner file for July 10th, and it's going to put those 3 steps. I'm going to go ahead and delete that again, and we will move on to working with recurring cards. So planner. Okay, so we'll quit out of this section here, and it's going to say proceed to recurring cards. And if you say yes, what Lumo's going to do is it's going to go through all the cards that are in the recurring cards section. And basically recurring cards, as you might surmise, are cards that are going to repeat at an interval that you set. And to show you that interval, let's go briefly here to the Lumo Newcard feature. And we will just make a sample card called See Errand Shaving. We're not going to edit the steps. And then when it gives you the options for option E set as a recurring card, we can type that in, and it'll say, do you want this to repeat days, weeks, or months? We'll say, how about every 5 days? So we'll say A for days, and then we'll say 5. And it's now going to make that card with that option for every 5 days. It's going to remind you about that card. If you wanted to change that, you could go into the modification menu. Oh no, you can't. Okay. You can't do it from there. You would have to do it from the search menu, I believe. So if we go to search and then type in shave, we can type in B that we just made. And if we say D, you can update that card here, and it'll give you that same menu over again. Okay, so let's go back to the planner. We'll quit the first round, which is the near focus cards, and go to the recurring cards. And it's going to say 3 cards were reactivated. So it's looking at the last time that this card was completed. So if you were to say on this recurring card, done, it's going to tell you when that card is next going to reactivate. So in this case, it looks like every 4 days it's set up as the default. And you can interact with these cards in the same way as you would with the cards from the first part of the right here where it says running near focus cards. You can do things like random type if you want to make a note about that, or if you want to add a step from it, you can type in the integer like that. And it's going to put those on your agenda. And I will, I'm not going to let this finish here. I'm just going to go back and say Lumo Planner so we can go back to those cards here. And if we quit out of that and then go to the recurring cards, you'll see it says running 2 reactivated cards because previously we said that we had completed one of the cards. So I'll just show you this here and I'll say done for this one here. And now when I go back and start the Lumocards planner over again, it's only going to show me what reactivates. So it can be a handy way of tracking things that you know you need to do on a regular basis. And until you tell Lumo that that card is completed, it's just going to keep showing up every day as a reminder until you say, okay, I've done that card. So that's that. And then the last portion is the calendar cards, which integrates all of your events from Google for that day, which is currently not set up. And so if I were to try to run this, it's going to show me an error message that just says the calendar is not currently configured, or it's not correctly set up, etc. And it's going to prompt you to go to this particular video that you're watching here, which has a section about setting up the calendar. So we're going to type any key to continue. And then it's going to create a planner file for today, which we already looked at. And now that it's made that planner file, if you want to check out that file, you can type in the word agenda and it will show you the planner file that we made for today. In that case, it's empty. You could also type more, and agenda is E. So if we, oops. Okay. So let's just make a quick planner that actually shows something for the agenda. So if we type planner, and then we'll say we're going to get the steps 1, 2, and 3 from apple picking. For the computer project, we'll say emails. And from their taxes, we'll say start taxes. And then we'll say super quit because we're done with that. It's now going to add those to the agenda. And then we can type in agenda here. And you'll see that from our near focus cards, it put in those. Now, if we go back and we do the planner again, and let's say we just go to the recurring cards, so we'll quit out of that, but we'll proceed to the recurring cards, and we'll say yes for the recurring card, and we'll say yay for, oh, so we only have one card left. It's going to add that to the planner, and then we'll see again that it will just add to the planner for the day. So we'll type in agenda again, and you can see it's added on this near focus card again, although that's an error because it should say recurring card, but you get the idea along with a little timestamp. Okay, now we will quit out of that, and then we will, okay, last part of this is how to set up the calendar with Google Calendar. So If you were to try and launch the calendar, it would give you an error message, which I can show you by typing G here. And it's going to say the calendar is not currently configured, yada, yada. So how do we configure the calendar? First thing, again, I'm using Chrome. I know this works with Chrome, so I recommend just getting Chrome for this. Is we're going to go to Chrome. We're going to go to console.cloud.google.com, and we are going to set up a project. So let's, in order to do that, you're going to click on this thing that kind of looks like a honeycomb. And when you click on that, in the upper right hand corner of this white box, you can type new project. And we will call this, you can call it whatever. I'll just call this Lumocards test. Where it says location, you can leave that blank. And then we'll go ahead and create this. By the way, this is all free, so you don't have to pay for anything. Now, once you're in there, there's a whole bunch of stuff, but there's only a few things that you need to actually do to get this working. So you're going to go to the little menu here, the navigation menu, and you're going to click on APIs and services. And then where this button is that says enable APIs and services, you're going to click that. And then in this search box, you're going to type in calendar. And you're going to click on the first option here, Google Calendar API. And let's see. Oh, you know what? I messed this up because I'm in a different project. Let me go to Lumocards test. Okay. Now that I'm in Lumocards test, it'll should say enable. So we'll go ahead and enable that API. And we'll let that do its thing. I'm on a little bit of a slow internet here. So that's the first step. Then we're going to go into this tab on the left that says OAuth consent screen. And we will click on this button that says get started. For the app name, I'm going to keep it the same as the first name that I put in. So I'll just call it Lumocards test. For the user support email, you're not really going to have to use that, but just put in whatever email you're logged into here from the drop down. Then you click next. After that, you're going to hit this radio button that says external, and you're going to type next. Not type, you're going to click next. For contact information, this is just your email, whichever you want. Then you'll click next, you click that you agree, continue, and then you're going to click create. Now, the next step after that is, let's see here, maybe, is it branding? No, nothing with branding do you touch. Audience, there's one thing that you need to do here, which is to type or click publish app. So in the audience tab, publish app, confirm. And this is going to allow you to just use the Google Calendar API in perpetuity while you're using Lumocards. Otherwise, it has this whole reauthentication thing that's annoying. And then we're going to go to clients. In the clients section, you're going to go to create client. And you're going to from the drop-down application tab, you're going to click on desktop app. Again, I'm going to call this Lumocards test. Just match what's there. And then go ahead and create that project here. And then very importantly on this screen, you're going to go ahead and download the JSON here. And then it's really important that this JSON that you download needs to go in a specific spot in your Lumo folder, which is going to be under support files, under credentials, and then you be absolutely sure that you name this file that you're downloading credentials.json, like that. You can see there's another file in here, pseudo credentials, that's there just as a placeholder, but credentials.json is what you're going to use. Then you're going to click OK after that's done. And now we can go test and see if this is working. So back in Lumo, we'll type in the calendar, and it's going to show this URL here. For some terminals, you'll need to copy this address and then paste it into the browser. For my terminal here, it automatically is launching the window here, and it's going to bring up this authentication window. And this is where you select what calendar is actually going to be loaded into your Lumocards project. So for me, I'm going to pick this one because I know I actually have some events in this calendar. And it's going to take you to this scary screen that says Google hasn't verified this app. And that's because this is like an app that is essentially just a project that you're using with yourself. No one else is going to be using the Google project that you've set up except for you. And so Google hasn't verified that in the same way that it would verify like a Google project that was, being sent to millions of people. So it's going to say, oh, this is scary, but don't worry about this. This is just like some other projects on GitHub. So to actually get this to work, you're going to go to this tab that says Advanced, and then it says Continue only if you understand the risk and trust the developer. And you're going to go to Lumocards Test. Then it's going to say, okay, are you giving access? And you're going to say Continue. And now it will say the authentication flow has completed. You may close the window. And then if everything works correctly, it will show you your calendar for the week that you're on. This is sort of a developmental feature, so you can play around with it if you want, but it's not really fully functional. But if you do want to navigate, it's with the brackets. So left bracket to go back in time, right bracket to go forward in time. And I'm going to go ahead and quit out of that because what I want to show you is now if you go into the cards planner and you type quit to get out of the near focus cards and then quit again to get out of the recurring cards, it'll say, do you want to proceed to calendar cards? And it's going to show you events from your calendar organized as a card for the day. So in this case, it's going to run calendar cards, and then it's showing me I have a card about canceling an audiobook subscription, and then I have a card about my bedtime. And with this calendar cards, important note is that you can't interact with it in any way. Like if you type in show or any of those keywords, open, it's not going to do anything. But what it will do at the end here is it's going to automatically add those events to your agenda for the day. So if I type in agenda, you'll now see that in addition to my steps from before, I also have my calendar cards listed. So at the end of the whole process of once you integrate your planner with the calendar, you can set up a way to prepare a daily agenda and then have that as a reference that you can either print or put into like a notebook or just have, email to yourself or whatever way you want to use it, or just, a way to mentally collect your thoughts and sort of know where you are with things. So I'll go ahead and quit out of that, and that will finish this section out. Okay, so a last thing to discuss is Lumo can handle some basic renaming and moving from within the folder itself rather than having to move and rename things in the terminal here. So for example, let me just get rid of that because I don't want that. But for example here, let's say that I moved this apple picking card to the middle, and I renamed this distant card to be B dot new card. And let's say that I renamed this, but I gave it a bad category like L, my other card. Lumo would be able to handle all of that. So just to reiterate, you can rename cards, but if you accidentally make a duplicate name card, it can't handle that. So you have to be mindful of that. You can give Lumo the wrong prefix as long as you follow the same format of like a capital letter followed by an underscore. So like this, there's no L category, but it will deal with this in a moment. And you can move any of these cards to any other folder, even if you move like the script writing card to the recurring cards. It will actually go ahead and give the moved card like an updated metadata about how often it should recur using just a default value. And if you move it back out of there, it will remove that metadata. So that's all accomplished using this cards cleaner program, which should run if I just type Lumo here. It runs in the background, so it only gets activated if you start manually moving cards around, which again, with some caution, you can do. So it says now running the cards cleaner, and then we'll do all these different processes. So for the prefixes, it says, because L is in a category, it becomes a Z card. If you just deleted, if you rename cards manually, it will repair them with like new metadata and delete old metadata. And then if you move cards, it will change the metadata because each of the cards has a JSON card that's associated with it. So just a final note to be aware of. And then it will proceed back to the Lumo menu as normal. Okay, that's everything. Bye-bye.